Okay, we back with another episode of the Spotlight. We have a special guest, Miss Brandi Laurita. Usually, I start the show off by letting my guests let the people know what's going on in their life and like if there's anything you want the people know about what you got going on, new or old, anything.
Yeah. So I've been at the university for 15 years now. I'm getting old. Um, Mom of two. So I've got a nine and a not nine. She just turned 10 and 11-year-old. Goodness, though, my kids would be so upset with me. Um, Married. I did start a new role at the university. I took on additional responsibilities about a year ago
Mhm.
as vice president for student affairs, and then made a full transition this January to now be vice president of student affairs and athletics. And I'm excited. I love the University of Findlay. I
Yeah,
came here in 2008 and never thought I'd be here this long.
right.
And now I can't imagine being anywhere else.
That's good. Like you said, you were here for 15 years. How did you get here? Like, where did it all start before you found your way to family?
Yeah, so I was a student athlete. I was a Division II student athlete. I played volleyball and softball in college. I'm old enough that we could play two sports. I
Okay.
don't think now it would be as easy, but I had like volleyball in the fall, softball in the spring, and so it worked. I went to school at a small Division II in North Carolina called St. Andrews, and had a wonderful student athlete experience. Thought I was going to be a teacher. So my undergrad degree is in physical education.
Mhm.
Graduated and taught pre-K through third grade PE in North Carolina. My volleyball coach from college called and said, "Hey, I took a new job. Do you want to come coach with me?" I was like, "Sure, let's do it." So I went back to school. I was a graduate assistant and coached volleyball. When I finished my master's degree, my head coach took another job. And so I had a great athletic director and mentor. She said, "Okay, do you want to be the head volleyball coach?" I said, "Nope, don't want to do it." I didn't like recruiting. It wasn't my
Yeah.
thing. I wasn't passionate about it. And you've got to be passionate about recruiting. I said, "But I kind of like the athletic part of it." And so I became the head cross country coach and director of compliance at Converse College in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and loved the compliance side of it. So I had to recruit, wasn't loving it, was okay as a coach, but decided I wanted to get closer to home. I grew up in
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. And so a job at the University of Findlay came open for an assistant to the athletic director, senior woman administrator. And I was fortunate enough to run into my predecessor at a conference. Said, "Hey, this job's open. I'm interested." Um, it all worked out. So I came here in 2008 and have had many roles here on campus. So I started as assistant to the athletic director, SWA, was then promoted to assistant athletic director, SWA, and then in 2015 became the director of athletics.
Okay. So when that happened, was it like a no-brainer when they asked you to take on the lead athletic director, or what did you have to think about it with your family and stuff?
Yeah, so a lot of soul searching to see if that's really what I wanted to do. I knew that it was going to be a lifestyle change. Working in athletics is not a job. It really does become a lifestyle. You got
Yeah.
to blend. There's no really work-life balance. It's more of a blend.
Right.
And I wanted to make sure that I was going to be able to do that and do it well. I have a little bit of a control problem. I like to be in control. I like things to be done in a certain way,
Hmm.
very high expectations. And I wanted to make sure it was the right choice for me to apply for the job. So I talked to a lot of great mentors that I have, my husband, and said, let's try it and see what happens. President Fell here has always been a great mentor for me. And so when she offered me the job, I felt like, okay, I can do this. And
Right.
so that happened in 2015, and here we are.
So when what was the best part would you say of being an athletic director? Because you said 2016 all the way into currently last year. What would you say like is the best part of doing that as a job or as a living?
Um, I would say it's a little cliche. I'll admit that. But watching our student athletes come in as freshmen, my favorite is them coming in and somebody being quiet and reserved and shy, and watching them graduate and being kind of blossom into these energetic, outspoken, great young men and women. That was the best part of the job. Something that surprised me about the job a little bit was I love the interaction with student athletes, and every time I took a position, a new position, there was less interaction with student athletes. I kind of joked and said, like, I got to meet student athletes who were in trouble, and I got to meet student athletes who were excelling.
Yeah.
And the 400 in the middle, I kind of watched from a distance and didn't get to know them. So had to learn how to adjust to that and adjust to impacting at a different level than all of those one-on-one interactions.
Yeah. Compared to when you first started in 2016 to where you ended, what would you say was the big difference as far as the way you handled the job?
So when I started, full honesty, I thought I knew a heck of a lot more than I did. So I had a lot to learn. And I felt like in my role, I needed to lead in a certain way. I had been a student athlete, worked for athletic directors, and felt like I needed to lead the way they did. That I needed to be effective by being very stern, kind of trying to be this person that I wasn't.
Right.
And I learned very quickly that that was very ineffective, and that if I was going to be an effective leader, I needed to be genuine to who I was.
Right.
And when I figured that out, I think I became not only more comfortable in my skin, but way more effective in our department and on campus. So that was a big learning curve for me, and being able to acknowledge what I didn't know. So when I started as the athletic director, I was young. I was 32. And there were lots of people who maybe thought somebody else should have got the job.
Right.
And I felt like I had to prove them wrong, and I had to know everything. And when I finally realized that I didn't know everything and it was okay to ask for help, I was so much better at my job.
Was like when you say know everything, like we really don't. The only side we see of being an athletic director is you schedule big events that we have, like athletic events. You talk to the other athletic directors to get schedules and stuff like that. Is it a lot more to it? Because you could say you thought you knew everything. Like, was it a part of it that you had no clue about that you like blindsided you?
I didn't realize how much of a generalist I had to become and rely on other people. So I couldn't be the expert in compliance. I couldn't be the expert in scheduling. I had to rely on the people that they were experts, and being okay to empower others to be really good at their job and just let me know what was going on. I also learned a lot about policy and procedure on campus and the value in knowing how to make things happen. Thinking about just athletics can only get you so far.
Right.
So I had to learn a lot about the nuances of academic scheduling and how that worked, or how the budget process worked, or how we were going to raise money for something that we wanted. A lot about those higher ed things that I didn't know about or didn't think that I would need to know about.
Right.
And so once I realized, okay, the games and the final product are like cherry on top. You got to do all these other things first, and learn who my resources were. I think that was the biggest learning curve for me. I didn't realize there was so much that happened behind the scenes that you don't really get to see till you're in the seat.
Mm-hmm. I seen during the season, I don't know if it was last season or the season before, where you were in a competition with Tiffin's athletic director. Is it like that with most of the athletic directors in the conference, or was it just different because it's Tiffin and it's like a rival?
I would say the Great Midwest Athletic Conference has got phenomenal people in it. And we support each other, and we're fiercely competitive against each other. But we're there as a sounding board, and we're there to push each other to be better. We use what someone has to help our own institutions, right? So if somebody builds something new, I take that and I'm like, Devin just built this. We need this, and we use those to push each other. Lonnie, the AD at Tiffin, and I are very close. We joke and say we don't hate to lose to anybody else more.
Right.
Like, I hate to lose to Tiffin. But at the end of the day, like, we're still the best of friends and push each other to be better. And I think it's across the board, not just in our conference, but Division II as a whole. Mm-hmm. Really using each other as resources, being able to reach out and say, hey, you did this great thing. How do I do it here? Or, hey, this wasn't so good. How can I help you? Right. And I think you learn that in the division. It's something that I think makes Division II special, mm-hmm. in that we want to win and we're super competitive. But at the end of the day, the people are really important. Right. And so, yes, there's a special rivalry with Tiffin, but across the board, it's a pretty good relationship that we had within the conference and the division.
Oh, that's good. You said when other school gets something, you like, we need one. So has there? I heard when I came in that there was possibly going to be well, in the past it was supposed to be a stadium built on campus or something like that. Is that true?
So yes, we even made an announcement. We were going to build this stadium. We had an outside group that was going to build it and operate it, and that fell through. So it was kind of one of those moments of like we walked away with egg on our face. We'd made this announcement, it didn't happen. So not a great feeling, but it's definitely something we have plans for. A stadium, there's lots of things: baseball, softball fields, an outdoor track and field. Lots of things that we would love to have as athletics changes and recruiting changes, and it all is becoming a very much of an arms race. Student athletes are making decisions based on facilities. And so for us, it's making the plan to see how we can make that happen.
Right.
But yeah, you heard right. There was a plan, and it didn't happen.
Okay. That's crazy. Like as you said, like people make decisions based off of facilities because like we win a lot here and we actually get a good amount of athletes even without as many facilities, even though the FRC is a great facility. I know a lot of colleges that don't have something like that and stuff like that. And imagine if we was to get these new stadiums or like a baseball field, softball field, how many more people we're going to get. That's just going to be crazy. And like talking about winning the President's Cup right here, we won it, was it 5 years straight?
Yeah, we still need another one. So we're 4 years straight.
4. Okay.
Hopefully it's 5. We'll see. I think that's a huge testament to all of our programs because one program can't do it on their own. So it takes everyone. It takes the support of everyone pushing each other to be better. We joke and say we get the same amount of points if golf wins, as track wins, as football wins. We need everybody to win.
Right.
And so the President's Cup is a huge honor. I think that the GMAC is a very strong conference. And so it's such a testament to the successes we've had. And probably the successes we've had in spite of a lack of some facilities, because it's people like you and your teammates who come here and really buy into what we want to do.
Right.
Because without that, we're every other place. And I think that that's what makes us special.
Yeah. Also, the coaching staff, I feel like you do good with hiring head coaches because I play football, but I've met some of the other head coaches and they like good people. Like you will hear from some people that their head coach don't ever talk to them or they don't even know their head coach like that. It's like a numbers thing with them, but the coaches here actually care about the athletes, which is a good thing. And the conference is hard because I don't think, and out in football, I don't think anybody's had won back-to-back conference titles.
I don't think so.
Well, I think Tiffin did in the spring, and then did they win the fall after that or the fall before that?
But maybe in that kind of wonky.
Yeah, because I don't think that really count because some of the teams didn't even play.
Right.
But yeah, so if you had to pick a favorite sport that you like to watch, what would it be?
I will say, full honesty, I like to watch sports I don't know as much about because it doesn't make me as stressed.
Okay.
Like to come and watch volleyball and softball, which I played, is stressful because I know the intricacies of what's going on. To go and watch a tennis match that I'm learning more about, I really just love the thought of our student athletes being successful because I don't really know the sport as well. Or going to watch golf, who I'm maybe the world's worst golfer. And so I have an appreciation for a skill that I can't do.
Right.
I love to go watch you guys play football. Not anything I've ever played. They will not let me put pads on and tackle somebody. I've asked. I just think it'd be fun to do it once. I don't want to be tackled. I want to do the tackle and then be done. But I don't know if I would say there's a sport that I like to watch more than others. I think each sport has something that's very exciting about it. So I'm not willing to commit to one in particular.
Yeah, I agree. I like the golf, like you mentioned, golf. They won the national championship.
They did.
That's a that's the whole out of every D2 team. They beat everybody.
Everyone. I went down for their final round in Georgia, and it was maybe one of the most stressful, 4 hours of my life because
Hmm.
every shot mattered and there
Yeah.
was so much on the line. I joked with the ladies after and said, like, one hole, it was taking them all a long time to play. I'm like, do you know how golf stats does not refresh fast enough?
Yeah.
It took forever. But it was so exciting, and the emotion, the excitement we felt, and then you could see the gut-wrenching emotion for the team we beat because it came down to the last putt on the last hole.
Oh, okay.
So exciting. It was that finish that everybody wants, right? Because it came down to the last golfer.
Yeah.
But it was exciting. It was such an accomplishment. We haven't won many national championships. It's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
2009, we won men's basketball national championship, and then golf. And in our Division II history, that's it.
Yeah.
We've had some great individual successes where we've had some individual winners, but there's over 300 Division II institutions, and so it's a pretty special year to win a national championship.
Mhm. Yeah, because so you were there, like, so when they celebrate, is it like just claps and stuff in golf, or was they actually like
It
jumping
was pure
around?
pandemonium
Oh,
when they
okay.
won. People were yelling, screaming, lots of claps and hugs and tears from the golfers, from their families, and the other team. I think one of the most amazing things about golf for me is that they fiercely compete with each other,
Hmm.
but they support each other. And somebody hits a good shot and they're like, hey, good shot. There's not many other times like somebody catches a pass and you're like, hey, great catch.
Right.
That doesn't really happen as
Mhm.
much. And so the respect that they had for each other as teams and as players was pretty amazing to watch.
Yeah.
And the pure joy and excitement, probably something I'll never forget.
Right. I feel like that comes with the golfing, because it's like such a hard sport to do. Like, you have to respect, like, if somebody does something good. Cause I tried golf. I had a class that I had golf in. I did decent, but at first I couldn't ever hit the ball. Before that class, I couldn't ever hit the ball. It was going all over the place. But I learned a little bit. But compared to them, probably
Uh,
nothing.
yeah, it's an amazing sport. I think that every sport that we have has such skill.
Mhm.
You can't just walk out and play anything.
Right.
And so the skill that they have, I always joke and say, like, I see the whole golf course. My ball's going everywhere when I play golf. But the preciseness of their shots and everything that they do is truly amazing.
Yeah. So we talked about the President's Cup. Like, how does the point system work for that?
Yeah,
Like, to win
so
it?
it depends on the number of teams that have the sport. So if everybody in the conference sponsors it and, it's a female sport, there's 13 of them. And so if you win the conference, you get 13 points.
Okay.
And then down from there. So if you get second, you get 12. Now, say like wrestling, we just won the wrestling conference championship. And I think we're down to 4 schools with wrestling. So even though they won, they only got 4 points.
Oh, okay.
So the maximum amount you can get is the number of teams that sponsor that sport. And then it goes down from there.
Okay.
So we're fortunate in that we have lots of sports. So 22 sports that we get to score points in.
Mhm.
But it's not really just a quantity thing, because if you're really bad in all of them, you're not going to get very many points anyway.
Right.
So it's really having that success at the top. Swimming left today for their conference championship,
Mhm.
and the men have won multiple years in a row. The women got second last year, and they left today and they said, we're not getting second this year, we're winning.
Right.
So we hope they do, but there's not as many swim teams in our league. So even if they win, they're not going to get that 12, 13 points just based on the number of teams.
Okay. Okay, I get it now. Okay, so when you were picking a head coach for a team, how does that process go? Like, what are you looking for in that coach to say, yeah, he or she's a good fit for what we're trying to do here at Findlay?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with good people. My philosophy is always, you can make somebody a better coach. It's really hard to make somebody a better person.
Right.
And so if we're going to achieve our goals and impact student athletes in a way that goes beyond athletics, you got to start with a good person. I also think it's important that we start with somebody that sees value in what we have.
Mhm.
We've talked about it. We don't have all of the bells and whistles in all of our programs. And to find somebody that says, okay, I can acknowledge what we have. We're going to be successful, either because of it or in spite of it, but we're going to be successful.
Right.
We've not had a ton of success here bringing somebody from a large institution to come to the University of Findlay. We're small, we're private, relationships matter.
Yeah.
And if you can't buy into that, you're not going to last here very long.
Right.
And so that's important to me. It's finding somebody that believes in a balance with athletics and academics. You all go to class here, you know that it's a challenging institution. And so you've got to be able to give flexibility with our student athletes. I also think it's important we find people that allow our student athletes to be engaged and involved and do other things, because that's really about the experience we're trying to find. So got to be a good person. I think knowing the game is important, but you can always learn more about the game. Can't learn, that person thing is really important. I also think it's important that you find somebody that wants to be part of a team, because our head coaches really do work together. They sit down together. They ask questions. Somebody will go to Coach Allen and say, hey, you just brought in like 50 new guys. Tell me how you recruit.
Right.
What's your philosophy? How do you do this? How do you recruit your top guy? And how do you recruit that person's going to be, a role player? And they share. And so we've got to find somebody that buys into that it's not just about their program, but it's about making all of us better. And you don't always find that in head coaches. Right. I also think it's important that we find somebody that's going to represent the institution well. That when you go on the road as a team, that I'm going to get a call from the athletic director and say, man, you beat us bad, but your kids were well behaved. They were respectful, and your head coach was awesome.
Right.
And if we can do that, that's a win. And so that's the kind of stuff I always looked for when finding that new head coach. We've been very fortunate here too, though, that we haven't had a ton of turnover in head coaches. A little bit more here in the last few years as people, I think more and more people are getting out of coaching. They're not really going anywhere else. They're just saying, I'm going to go do something else. But finding people that Findlay is not a stepping stone, but it's really a destination, that's important too.
That's good. Because I know Coach Allen just started last year. Was the process for him like when he was interim head coach? Was that when he got that, was it already, did you guys already know like this is our guy, but we have to open it up to others to also interview?
That was a very unique situation. Coach Key's leaving was kind of blindsided me. I don't like to be blindsided.
Yeah.
And I usually don't feel like I do, but we didn't know he was going. And so when he came in and said he was leaving, I didn't necessarily like to have the plan that I usually like to have. Coach Allen had been here for a very long time, was very dedicated. But we also needed people to see him as the head coach. And so that was part of the reason for the interim.
Okay.
Gave a little bit of time for him to establish himself, for it to be that we weren't just giving him the job, but that he was the man for the job.
Yeah.
And so in that interim period, it was tough. It's really tough to be an interim because you're trying to make decisions, but you're also trying to make people happy, so they pick you. And he did a phenomenal job. And I think on campus in the conference, he showed people that he was the man for the job. He wasn't just the easy person to slide in. And so that was the real reason for interim. I knew in my heart of hearts he was going to be our head coach. And he and I had many conversations about that interim title. But it was really to set him up for success, for people to know that we had options. There was lots of people interested in the job. It was a very desirable job. You all do a great job. We have a long success history. And so we wanted him to feel like and have the respect of others that he was the man for the job. Right. And it wasn't just an easy choice.
Okay.
So that was part of it. Timing was also part of it, the way it all shook out. But at the end of the day, I think we're in a really good place with football.
Yeah, I think so. It's been the culture's been very good. And like you said, you like to go with people that are good people and the culture, which builds culture. Is there like a specific culture model that you guys go by, or is it just it's known when you walk in the building?
Yeah, so you'll see it. It's there. We say all the time, personal approach, championship experience. And we try to model that in everything that we do. So when we think about personal approach, it's meeting you where you are and getting you to that championship experience every day. You're not going to win every day. But would you look back and say, I would want to do it any other way? And if you can say, no, I wouldn't want to do the way, then I think we've succeeded. We don't succeed every day. But I think part of that culture is that we come back the next day and we try again. And it's meeting you where you are and meeting your teammates where they are and meeting each sport where they are and having the best experience for them and building to that championship experience. And so I think that's our culture. I think that that's something that we work really hard to do. When we think about that championship experience, it's not just athletically, but it's academically. It's all that we do is we really want our student athletes to be champions in what they do, whatever that is that they decide to do.
Right.
So I think that helps build our culture, and knowing that at the end of the day, wins and losses aren't always the end all be all. That's hard to say in athletics, right? Because you always want to win.
Right.
But sometimes there's good losses, and it teaches a lot. Sometimes losing teaches way more than winning.
Right.
And figuring out how to rebound from that, learning that grit and resiliency is super important. And so I think that's our culture, and it's our culture of helping each other up when we fall. And so we really do try to live by that personal approach, championship experience every day.
Okay, that's a great approach. So if you're yourself now, if you could tell the younger you at 2016 when you first started, if you had to give yourself some advice, what would it be?
I would tell myself to give people more grace, me included, that it's okay to make a mistake, and to have confidence in who I was. Because I think that looking back, I learned the most from some failures. I learned that sometimes giving myself some grace was needed. I would also tell myself that you can't be everything to everybody every day.
Right.
You know, I joke and say sometimes I'm a really great mom and I'm not the best at my job that day. And sometimes I'm really good at my job and like my kids are eating chicken nuggets and watching their iPads because we're balancing.
Yeah.
And knowing that that's okay. And so I wish that I would have known that. People told me that. I didn't listen. So hindsight, I think that's what I would tell myself, to give people grace and give yourself a little bit more grace.